Welcome to today's GNCC Small Business Workshop. My name is Mishka Balsam, and I will be your moderator for the next hour. The past few months accelerated the need for digital transformation for many organizations, as communication and collaboration became even more important for employees working from home and customers trying to access services and products. And as enterprises pivoted to expand their digital footprints, they faced increasing security challenges for protecting their networks, their devices, and their data. Shadow IT and rapidly deployed remote access networks proves to be vulnerable to cyber attacks, making securing one's business more difficult. Cloud security companies reported an increase in phishing, malicious websites, and malware targeting remote users, all related to COVID-19. Organizations are working hard to ensure business continuity and security by embedding data security, privacy, and compliance into their IT infrastructure. But all these decisions come with an equally long list of questions. To address some of them, we are fortunate to be joined this morning by an expert in the field of cyber resilience, Dodunski, CEO of CyberHunter Solutions. But before getting into the topic, we would like to extend our deepest thanks to our sponsor, MNP, a leading national accounting, tax, and business consulting firm, and our partners during the Small Business Month, Meridian Credit Union. Meridian Credit Union is Canada's second largest credit union of 92 locations across Ontario and 12 commercial banking centers managing over $24 billion in assets, serving just over 400,000 members, including over 25,000 small business members. Last year, Meridian expanded their offerings across Canada through the launch of Modus Bank, a fully digital national bank with members across Canada. For the past 10 years, independent business service conducted in this area and asking small businesses about their preferred business finance institute that they have when it comes to financing, fees, account management, and all of those services. And Canada's credit union ranked as the preferred financial institution of Canada's small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you, Meridian, for all that you do for the businesses, and especially here in Niagara. And joining us from Meridian is Richard Madoon, Senior Small Business Advisor. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Mishka. Thank you to the GNCC, Mishka, and your great team for putting this fantastic workshop series together. And today being the third one, I encourage you to register for the final workshop next week if you haven't already. We are in Small Business Month. That means small businesses in our communities get special attention. However, at Meridian, we believe every month is Small Business Month. Meridian recognizes that small businesses are a very important part of the communities here in Niagara and across our province. Meridian is very proud to be the presenting sponsor of this workshop, and thank you all for attending. I'm confident that today we'll benefit from the information that's going to be shared that's not only timely, but can be used ongoing with regards to tech and cybersecurity. Meridian's business banking team here in Niagara is over 40 people strong, which means we have the breadth of experience our business members are looking for. I don't vouch for a lot of people, but I strongly endorse this business banking team. As the saying goes, we mean business when it comes to small business. We believe in forming a dynamic partnership with our small business owners and help them grow their businesses. And to that effect, we're going to see a short video demonstrating this kind of partnership.
Megan and I worked together in Calgary, Alberta, and we dreamt about opening a studio and bringing it to Ontario. So we shifted gears and moved out here.
One of our first steps to opening our fitness center was to get a loan.
The game was to drop off the idea to 4 or 5 different competitive banks and lenders. But then when we met with Meridian, they wanted to build a strong community, and that was exactly our vision. Our business advisor let us know going into the meeting that we had to sell our story.
They were so different than what we expected, hands-on, super friendly, listened to us and heard back from them within a couple days.
The turnaround had to happen because we need to be open by January. That is our month in fitness.
Yeah.
We needed to crush it
tight
for
timeline.
January, and they were completely on our side of getting that done. No waiting. They also gave us credit cards, seamless, like here's your credit card, here's yours, what do you need to be successful? And now we've talked to them about opening our second location, and they're, let's do this.
It was the perfect fit.
Yeah.
Come to Meridian to tell your business story.
Thanks for all that you do, actually, for Naga. I couldn't agree more with the comment that you made that actually every day is Small Business Month, and we couldn't agree more with it here at the GNCC too. Here to speak on the important topic of cybersecurity is Chris Dodunski, CEO of CyberHunter Solutions, a cybersecurity firm focused on proactive threat hunting and digital forensic inspections. Chris, thank you very much for being with us this morning. Before we start the presentation, I just wanted to inform all participants that for the next 25 to 30 minutes, I'm going to pass everything over to Chris. He has prepared a presentation that hopefully will address many of the questions that you have. But following that presentation, we have an interactive Q&A sessions so that if some of the things are not addressed or you have some follow-up questions, it gives you the format to do so. So on that note, over to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. I will be sharing my screen. So this is a very high-level presentation today, but if there are any other follow-up questions after this is all over, certainly feel free to reach out. I think the first thing that we'll start with today is a question that I get a lot, and it really comes down to one of the things that many small, medium businesses are either in the progress of migrating or have migrated to the cloud. But I get kind of questions a lot that revolve around cloud security. And, you know, what we really need to do is talk about what is the cloud, because there are there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of misconceptions about it, because it's in typical IT and security fashion. It's filled with buzzwords and confusing language. So what is the cloud? You know, it is effectively and very simply someone else's computer running somewhere else with some software on it, performing tasks that you might need to have done. And so you're going to subscribe to it. You know, you pay monthly, you pay yearly to use it. And examples of it really are things that you probably have every day and you have them already. So web hosting, if you have a website, email services, file sharing services, file backups, financial services, everything that you would subscribe to over the internet is really just, as I say, someone else's computer or applications or platform that's some functional product that resides somewhere else. So when it comes to security, things are kind of all over the map, because cloud service providers are really the companies that host these applications or host this infrastructure. And so there, you know, there's the usual companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft, Bell, Rogers, those sorts of larger organizations. But it is also anyone and any other organization that happens to be selling software as a service or hardware as a service over the internet. So, you know, like Tom's Computer Services could set up a shop and be offering web hosting services. So, you know, in that sense, there might be differing levels of availability, of security, of you know, the horsepower that you're buying or the application robustness. It's very different. But in the end, cloud services are usually only as secure as the people who use them, okay? And I will get into this a little bit more, but we just have to keep all of these things in mind as we go through the presentation today. So the next slide is another question that I get quite frequently, mostly from small and medium businesses, is, you know, they say things like, I don't have anything to protect, do I? I mean, we make sweaters here, or I produce pens. There's nothing sensitive, or I hear the other one, which is, all my business is in the cloud, so I have nothing sensitive. There's nothing confidential inside my network. Okay, So when you look at your digital assets, that is, anything, all of your documentation, your financial records, your services, all of your digital assets, you have to look at them under the lens of this CIA triangle, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And you have to ask yourself, do these things matter to my organization? Or, if they are impacted in any way, does that hurt my operation? So let's start with a very simple thing. Let's start with availability. If you're hosting or you have an online store or you are an e-commerce company and it goes down, the website or the web application or your store goes down offline for 2 weeks, obviously that's going to hurt your operation in a significant way. So availability is an easy one. And mostly when people move to the cloud, it is because availability is pretty solid, right? When you buy an Amazon service or a Microsoft service, it's pretty solid and it's almost always there. Then we get into things like confidentiality and integrity. So confidentiality would be anything that you consider private or have you would like restricted access to this information. Let's say you sell something online and it costs you $3, but you want to sell it for $103. Well, obviously you don't want that sort of information exposed. You don't want your personnel information exposed. You don't want your financial and accounting information exposed. So confidentiality is certainly there. Data integrity is another one because that's a very important one, and one that was my very first experience with the world of cybersecurity was a data integrity issue. There was an online store we were working with that was selling high-end wristwatches, and someone hacked it and got in and started moving the decimal place to the left a little bit. So a $5,000 watch became a $5 watch, and of course they think all these sales are really great, and they were great, but they didn't realize that they were selling everything at a loss, and at the end of the month the company is out of business. Data integrity is extremely important because if people can't trust the information or the accuracy of the content or anything that you're delivering in a digital form, well, then you're going to lose customers and you're going to lose business. You could be sued. Let's say you're dispensing medical information and someone changes the content of the information that you're delivering. Well, that's certainly something that is going to harm others, and then you're going to be liable for it. So always ask yourself about confidentiality, integrity, and availability when you are assessing your digital assets. Okay. Now, on to the small, medium business. So SMB is small and medium-sized businesses. It is just a nice way of categorizing most businesses in Canada. I believe 94 or 96% of businesses fall into that category. Here we have a typical small business, small medium business from yesterday, we'll call it. We've got our happy manager, we've got computers, we've got people that come to work, we've got a few firewalls that might be protecting the organization. There are some services and servers inside that are providing things like maybe file sharing or backups or certain things. You've got all of your infrastructure inside your organization. Yesterday's small medium business really didn't do a lot of remote access. There wasn't a lot of teleworking or telecommuting. Most people went to work, they go in, they log, they sit down, they get into their computers, and away they go. In many cases, services like email and file sharing was done inside the organization, and it still is to some degree today, but much of that is moving out. And of course, cybersecurity for the SMB was typically, antivirus on the desktops or the laptops, some firewalls at the edge, and some corporate policy that says, don't do this, don't do that. Getting advanced beyond that, there wasn't usually a whole lot of it, but that was yesterday's world and yesterday's reality. Today's reality, so 2020, 2021, and maybe going forward, kind of the virtual small business, small medium business instead of the brick and mortar is something that's kind of happening. And because of COVID-19, offices are closed, offices are downsized. We get requests to do penetration testing at CyberHunter quite frequently, and we'll go and do an internal penetration test, and 90% of all the computers are gone. And the IT administrator or the security person we're working with will say, well, I'm sorry, but everybody works at home now. Well, so what's happening is now everybody is working from home. Services are either have already been migrated to the cloud so that they can be made available, or they're in the process, and there's very little left inside the organization, the corporate structure that was once there. So here's our happy manager. He's got himself a server and a laptop and a single firewall, but there's really not much inside. And not getting into predictions of the future, I think there are a lot of organizations that realize that because of how good high-speed internet is these days and cellular coverage, that brick and mortar isn't always the most cost-effective or necessary option for many organizations. However, what that means is, all these people that are sitting at home, working from wherever they want to work, cybersecurity is kind of all over the map. As we distribute all of these digital assets and things to the wind, your umbrella of cybersecurity that was, the corporate facility and everything inside the perimeter has absolutely vanished. And we've been talking about the security perimeter being, full of holes for years now, but it is literally, vanished in the last, 8 months. So more than ever, we really need to protect critical digital assets. We need to practice proper cyber hygiene and somehow get our security shifted. Our security focus needs to be shifting to the individual endpoint, to the people working at home. We still have to have solutions to bring that security, to the individual worker. So, the landscape, and I'll call it the even more dangerous landscape for cybersecurity is really, it's a reality. So, as I said, the corporate security perimeter has gone. One of the other things that is kind of, we do see a fair bit, and this can trigger some situations, is that collaborative communication between coworkers is very restricted because of the work at home situation. So let's say, for example, someone downloads something suspicious. In an office environment, you might get up, you might walk over to the cubicle next to you or the office beside you, and you might say, hey, can you come and take a look at this? This looks a little strange. Is this you? Is this, do you know if this was sent from this person? So the collaboration has kind of disappeared, and people being isolated, of course, that makes a hacker's job a little easier. So online cyber threats like ransomware, malware, absolutely rapidly increasing and evolving, certainly because they work. Ransomware is absolutely evolving. It used to be a bit of a smash and grab type thing where, people would infect you with ransomware, would lock down some office documents and hold you for ransom. You either pay or you don't pay, and then it would move on. What we see now is that ransomware is actually embedding itself into networks or into multiple systems. And if the hackers can get you to pay once, and they've left themselves a few little re-entry points after the fact, well, they're probably going to do it again and again and again. So there is also the advanced persistent threat that sort of embeds itself inside the network and just sits there and watches. Doesn't really cause any harm that is evident. They're watching, they're learning your business. They are understanding, who are the executives, who is dealing with finances, who are your vendors, who are people you're paying and being paid from. And, they're trying to learn who your targets are. So, the threats are really evolving. And as a result, defenses have to evolve with it. So We also have, work at home. If you've all heard the term insider threat, it used to be the malicious employee or that does something either intentionally or unintentionally to disrupt or harm the organization. The insider threat now sort of is, kids maybe using the corporate computer that you've brought home. It's doing things of a personal nature on your system that is a corporate asset. I can't stress enough how dangerous that behavior is. If you're doing anything online that is sensitive, and let's say it's something like online banking, I certainly wouldn't let my children on that computer. And I certainly wouldn't be doing a lot of personal use. You are playing in dangerous waters, and because you don't have that corporate infrastructure that is potentially watching for intrusion and monitoring behavior and things like that, it's a bit of a dangerous game, and you're really rolling the dice there. So the insider threat is a big deal. Here's another one: credential fatigue. I think we all probably have 20 or 30 different usernames and passwords that we use on a daily basis to get into cloud security services and get into our email, get into our web portal, get into this, get into that. We have so many of them. And people typically use the same password over and over and over again. We, just saw the other day, Canada Revenue Agency was was compromised. They had a lot of accounts that were compromised, and it was because of something called credential stuffing. Credential stuffing really, let's imagine, for example, you have 25 different cloud services or things that you log into on a regular basis. 24 of those things are perfectly secure. The 25th thing is Tom's computer shop, which he really did not do a good job at securing things. You use the same password all the way through, and someone breaches or compromises the cloud services that is Tom's computer services. And what happens is your credentials end up on a list with thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions of other people. And then they go after services that you are likely to be using, such as the Canadian Revenue Agency, such as Office 365, such as anything along those lines. And they cycle through all of those credentials and hope that they can eventually find one that works. So credential stuffing happens. So I know everybody is tired of all the passwords, but you must continue to use unique passwords for every single service that you use. And we'll go into that a little bit more. So ultimately, more cloud-based services means more opportunity for hackers to hack, for people that are doing phishing to try and get your credentials and so on. And I'm going to give you, here's an example of how threats are evolving. This is something called an OMG cable. And it looks like a standard USB charging cable. And a hacker would buy this. But inside the little USB plug that would go into the charging block is a full-blown web server with Wi-Fi. And when you plug it into your device, whether it's an iPhone or an Android or a computer, this device can send malicious payloads straight into your system. So, that's pretty scary, because on the surface, you really wouldn't look at that and go, oh yeah, that's clearly something that is, that doesn't, it looks fake. It doesn't, it looks exactly like a charging cable. So, when you're traveling, don't use, those free charging ports at airports, hotels, conferences. Just don't do that. Those cables are a data bus that can transmit information straight into your device. Bring your own cables, bring your own charging blocks. It's stuff like this. There's always going to be things that are going to get you, because this is the creativity of the hacker's mind. Weaponized things, weaponized USB stuff is very common. Here is a perfect example. And these things really, really are scary. And as I say, if you are traveling and you're in a foreign location, you have no idea who has just been providing free charging station that you might be plugging into because you just need a few more percent to take you over the edge for the rest of the day. Okay, this is the way threats are evolving, and it continues down this road. So what are some critical items for small medium business to focus on? And we've broken it down into basically 4 things. Okay, your website and your web applications. This is the public face of your company. If you have an e-commerce site, if you're delivering information, you need that data integrity. You need security on this. If people are defacing your website, if people are hacking your website, if people are copying and spoofing your website, you can't have that. You can't have people meddling with the face of your company. One of the things I will say, because we are currently involved in 2 situations right now where we have seen multi-tenancy cause an issue. And I have a full slide on that after, but let's just remember multi-tenancy in web applications because it is a big deal. Performance and availability is another one of those things. So when you have a website, if it is slow, if it is hasn't been updated lately, if it looks out of date, it's no different than if you have a company and you don't answer the phone. People just assume that you're not available anymore, you're not around, and maybe you're not doing business. So you need to have a website that is high performance, that is constantly updated, your content is churning. You need to let people know that you're there, and responsiveness is more important than ever, just because people's attention spans are lower than ever before. Email, of course, is your primary business channel still for most organizations. You have to mitigate your inbound threats, and inbound threats, email is a nightmare from a security perspective. Phishing is one of the largest ways that companies get compromised, and ransomware comes into an organization or infects an endpoint. You have to treat every unknown email as a potential threat. And that could be that there's a suspicious link in it. That could be that there's an attachment in it that you shouldn't be opening. Again, we get involved in these sorts of situations all the time. All it takes is one person to actually open the wrong email attachment, and you've got an infection, and the infection propagates itself throughout the organization. The corporate contact list gets stolen. The hackers start hammering all of your clients, pretending to be you with more malware, and it just spreads like wildfire. And then everybody starts pointing fingers, everybody starts getting upset, and lawsuits happen. I live and breathe it, and I don't want to sound negative about it, but it just happens all the time. Email is a big deal, and protecting it. Of course, you've got the business side of email. You need to ensure your email is reliable. It reliably gets to its destination, and you really have to prevent people from spoofing your domain as much as possible to protect yourself and to protect others. Okay, so there are configurations that you should be properly setting. These are things like a DMARC setting and a sender policy framework and a DKIM. These records are necessary to configure your email properly, so they arrive at your destination, and the recipients know that they are from you. And the better you are at configuring these things, the more valid your emails will look to recipients, and it will prevent that sort of thing from happening. Your emails won't end up in spam. They won't end up. People won't be spoofing you. I mean, I get constant communications from people that say, "Hey, this hacker just said they could spoof my email and send emails on my behalf to all my customers." And it's just because you don't have your email configured properly. So there are those things. Endpoint security is another hot button. An endpoint is, a laptop computer, a desktop computer, or really, any device that has computing power and an IP address and a network connection. But endpoint security is, particularly now that most people have exited the corporate security framework and the corporate umbrella of security, you need to have that security operations center kind of existing right on the desktop and the laptop, because it has the keys to your cloud kingdom, okay? I don't care how secure your cloud is, your cloud services. You're sitting on your computer, you're logging into your cloud service, and as soon as you do that, if I have hacked your computer, I can do the exact same thing as you. So if you're an administrator, as an example, and you have elevated privilege for your company, and you log into, let's say, Office 365, the administrative portal, and I happen to be on your computer at the exact same time because I'm a hacker, well, now I have administrative keys to your Office 365 instance as well. So I can start rifling through all your folders. I can start looking at emails. I can create myself some accounts. I can set up forwarding rules so that maybe the CEO and the CFO emails all get sent to me. There's a lot of things that you can do, but your computer has the keys to that world. If I come in from the outside, I might not be able to get into your cloud services, but if I'm on your laptop and I can become you, well, then of course I can get in. And a single hacked computer can certainly bring down your organization. And I think 60 to 70% of small, medium businesses that become compromised in a significant way fail in less than 6 months because it is so disruptive. We all have cash flow is very tight. You can't afford to go offline for very long if you are a business that relies on your digital infrastructure being available. So endpoint security is a big deal. Traditional antivirus does not work. I can absolutely promise you that. We do penetration testing where we are paid to ethically hack networks. And I can assure you that antivirus doesn't work because once we're inside and we are doing a penetration test of an internal network, we don't use malware to hop from machine to machine and do things. We use things like Windows system administration tools. And there isn't, antivirus doesn't look at a Windows system administration tool and say, hey, that is some dangerous software you're using. It just says, oh, you're an administrator. Okay, away you go. So you need endpoint security that is not just about antivirus. You need to understand behavior. And if you don't have endpoint security that can also understand behavior, you don't have any security that's worth anything. And that's a fact. Passwords being the fourth thing. Weak passwords or having easily guessable passwords really is one of the number one reasons behind malware spread and ransomware spread. Credential stuffing, as I said, is a problem. So if you're reusing passwords and some service gets popped somewhere and someone reuses it on some service that is really secure, well, that doesn't really help you. So I strongly encourage everyone, not just small, medium business, to use a password manager, and every single service that you use should have unique and long, strong passwords, over 12 characters, special characters, numbers, letters, capitals, small letters, everywhere. You really need to do that. It's really easy to do. It's a very simple change to your overall process, but it's probably one of the most effective that you can. Now, I wanted to talk again just very quickly about multi-tenancy because, as I said, we're in the middle of a couple of engagements right now where this is an issue. So let's imagine, I've just built this analogy here for you today. There's a motel called the Cloud Server Motel, and it has 6 rooms, okay? So most cloud services, as I said, they're computers that are kind of running somewhere else, could be a cluster of them, and there's all kinds of different users that subscribe to get in and use these services. Well, so most cloud services have multiple tenants or multiple users who get on them and use them, right? So like a motel, each tenant of the motel has their own room with their own room key to get in the front door. And like a motel, each room has a single door to the outside world. They don't really have any other exit. But like many motels, there are interior doors connecting adjoining rooms, right? If you have ever been in these things where you can, buy two rooms together, open the door in the middle. So let's imagine that we have this cloud server motel with 6 rooms, and they all have adjoining rooms. Well, if your room key is stolen, or in this case, your credentials are guessed or hacked by a hacker, okay, they'll get in your door. So in this particular case, room number 3 has been opened by our little criminal here. Now, once they get inside, of course, they can do damage. Now, every one of these rooms is a client. Let's say it is a website. So this cloud server motel could have 6 individual websites on it from 6 individual customers. But the hacker has gotten into the 3rd one, and they're in there and they're defacing things and they're changing things and they're putting backdoors into the system so that they can come and go as they please. But they get in there. Now, if once they're in there, they can also open the interior room doors to room number 2 and room number 4. So there's no locks between those doors. There's weak locks, there's broken locks. Then they can get into the other rooms as well. So one stolen key could eventually impact the entire motel's security. And that is the issue with multi-tenancy and cloud services. For example, there are instances where software development companies host their own services, and they host them on, they buy dedicated servers, and they host 30, 50, even 100 customers on their web servers. If they do not have proper separation between all of their tenants, all it takes is one weak link, and then everybody is impacted. It is called virtualization, and strong virtualization protects the tenants from each other, both from a security perspective and from a performance perspective. You don't want, website number 3 to consume all the resources in the host. You don't want website number 3 to be the security link that gets hacked and then everybody else gets hacked. Multi-tenancy is one of those things that, depending on the cloud service that you subscribe to, can be an issue. So, the companies like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, they're very good at multi-tenancy. However, there are hundreds of software as a service companies that are springing up every day that have multi-tenancy services, and we get paid to test them. And I can assure you that those interior doors are not always very good. So it is something to be aware of when you are choosing your cloud services. And so that's about it. I have some final thoughts, and I just would say that if you are being targeted for an attack by a hacker, given enough time and resources, they're going to breach your network. They're going to infect your systems. So you need to, as an organization, assume you will be breached, and you need to have a recovery plan that covers all of your critical assets. If you imagine that you wake up the next morning and you try to go into work and everything is locked down, what do? Do you have a recovery plan? Do you have any ability to get your business back online? If security was perfect, I wouldn't be giving you this discussion right now. We would have just installed perfect security, and I would be somewhere else doing something different. Security is not perfect, so you have to plan for the failure, and you have to plan to be able to recover. Your business must have a continuity plan. To help you along the way, certainly patch your software always, 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 because most of those fixes are flaws in the software. A lot of them are security related. And then finally, really regularly test your security. Prevention Certainly on your endpoints, you must have the proper type of advanced protection on your endpoints. You need to have proper detection and monitoring of suspicious activities. If you can't see something, you certainly can't stop it. You need to have proper visibility. And then you have to have a response plan. So if X happens, what do you do? If Y happens, what do you do? All of these, it's no different than you would plan to, you know, if someone pulls the fire alarm at the office, what do? Well, you leave. You gather your things or not, you leave in a single file, whatever it is you do. Having a plan and having a recovery plan and a response plan is very important. So we can help you with all of these things. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Thank you so very much, Chris. This has been really, really helpful actually to everyone. There have been a number of questions that have come into us. And I thought I would love to get to all of them and seeing if we can answer them. So thank you for the presentation. I recently read an international survey that indicated that 46% of global businesses have encountered at least one cybersecurity scare during COVID-19. So I think we're looking at something that is becoming much more common and something that organizations have to address much more diligently than what we might have done in the past. So just to everyone who is attending and participating in the seminar, Zoom offers two options to you. You have the chat function that is there. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. If you click on it, we see it. Chris and I see the questions coming here on our end, and we are committed to addressing all of them that are coming in. But if you want to talk, we would love to also unmute you. All you have to do is, beside your name, you have the option of raising a hand. Click on this one. We will see on our end that you would like to ask a live question, and we will get to this. So let me start off with Tamara, who has joined us today. So first of all, thanks go to you, Chris, for the presentation. And here's a question. If you suspect you may have been tricked by a phishing attempt, what are the first steps you should do to protect yourself? And interesting enough, Tamara, this is a question that has come in from about 3 or 4 other attendees as well, all relating to phishing. Chris, over to you.
Okay, so there's a couple of types of phishing, and we'll just address, I'll address 2 of them right now. The first type of phishing would be more social engineering type of phishing. The social engineering would be something like, dear customer, your bank credentials need to be reset. Can you please enter them here and we'll change them or we'll update them? Things, whatever it is, they're looking for your credentials. Okay, they've sent you a fake website. They're asking you to log in again. You've coughed up your credentials. And then you go, oops, I shouldn't have done that. I don't think that's real. So that is a social engineering type of phishing attack where all you've done is provided information. So in that case, certainly the first thing that you should do is change any of your passwords, and hopefully you certainly are using unique passwords, so you should only need to be changing one. But if you use that same password everywhere, you're unfortunately going to have to go out to all of your services and reset your passwords immediately. If your cloud services have multi-factor authentication, I would certainly do that. I would certainly enable it. And what that could mean would be turning on, maybe you get a text message as an additional verification code. If you can enable that on every service that you have, it absolutely helps. But then what you need to do is make sure that no one does something called SIM jacking, which is taking over your cell phone account. So it's no good, obviously, if someone takes over your cell phone account and gets all your text messages. So there are a few things there. The second type of phishing would be where you've opened the wrong attachment. And all of a sudden, you've opened the thing that says you've got a FedEx document waiting here, open this zip file. And the next thing you know, you've got some funny stuff that looks like it's happening on your computer. We just dealt with this yesterday, actually, at a client. And unfortunately, you have a real issue to try and contain things, okay? The first stages of an infection happen very, very quickly. And they are very different. Sometimes it's really just about, they'll put roots into your computer immediately and they will establish themselves. Sometimes they will go on a little reconnaissance mission and they'll try to find other systems inside your network, but it can happen where your whole network is infected in a matter of minutes. If you feel that you have been compromised, and particularly if you've lost a client list, you should pick up the phone and start informing people immediately that maybe you're going to start getting emails that look like they are from your organization. Please don't click them. Please don't open them. We're not sending you any attachments right now. We're not asking you to open these invoices or open these documents. You need to have a communication plan immediately. You should take your machines offline that you feel are infected. Certainly we can help you with any post-breach type of activities and try and get things back in order, but you have to have a containment plan. So
thank you very much. I really appreciate it, because this is something that most organizations are experiencing on a regular basis. This is a question from Michelle Duval, and she's asking, can you recommend a good password manager?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple of the ones that I have used in the past. LastPass would be one. OnePass or OnePassword, I can't remember the other name of it. They're all fairly similar, where you have a master password that would be a long, very complex phrase, and that's used to open up the vault. And what these password managers do, when you go to log into your service, it will suggest, we have a password for you, but you're going to need to open your vault in order to do that. So really all you need to do is remember one long, strong password to get that done. But there are a whole bunch and they change all the time. The ones I'm most familiar with are LastPass and OnePassword.
Thank you very much. Karen Brown is asking a question, and that question has also come to us via text and emails from individuals. And that's the question on storing and backing up data that people and organizations have. And it's a question of server versus cloud. And Karen specifically is asking, what is the best way to choose a cloud-based system for our system? So if you have any input on that, server versus cloud, and then if this person wants to, an organization is interested in cloud-based system, what is the best way to choose it?
Sure. So that's a kind of a very specific to your business question and specific to your requirements question, because there are different layers of cloud service. You may just need an application. You may just need a function like a database or a file server, or you may want to have infrastructure like your own dedicated server or a slice of that server, which would be a virtual server. And then you would layer your own software or install your own software on top of it. So, unfortunately, Karen, that question is kind of like how long is a piece of string? And please give me a call when you have a moment, and we can walk through a few ways to potentially discuss what you're looking to do. If it's for websites, we have certainly some options for you. If it's for other things, there are thousands of possible combinations for it. So I just need to know a little bit more about what it is you'd be specifically looking to do. For server versus cloud, unless you have an IT team that is good at maintaining, patching your server, and you're not as worried about availability, let's say you have a power outage in your office and everything goes down. Well, that's something that doesn't really happen that often in a cloud unless there's a major internet outage. Your cloud server is always available because they're the ones providing redundant power, redundant internet. Everything is in a kind of redundant mode. I would suggest putting that, if you need a server, I would suggest it be a virtual server in the cloud, and then go from there.
Perfect. This is a question that came in, that some experts are saying that having cyber insurance will make you a target because the cyber criminal thinks that they're more likely to get paid if they go after a company with cyber insurance. What are your thoughts on cyber insurance?
Well, my comment about that is I wouldn't pay a criminal that hacked my stuff. Why would I? I wouldn't trust them to honor an arrangement to unlock my documentation after I paid them. I wouldn't trust them to not do it again. These are criminals. And furthermore, usually once, there are many of them that just get shut down before you know it. So I wouldn't actually pay. As far as cyber insurance goes, I think it's a good idea. I think it is an industry that kind of needs a bit of an overhaul, because right now, when you get cyber insurance, you just have to go through a checklist of things. It's not really a good measure of whether you are operationally secure or not. I don't know about a target so much. I think I don't see that as being a really a way to draw hackers in. They don't really care too much. They feel that you're going to pay regardless.
Yeah. This is a question that has come in from Mark Elixma. He's a web developer and is asking, what are some of the best ways one can protect user data? 1 or 2 or 3 ways, and then maybe we can follow up with a link afterwards.
So to protect user data, so in a multi-tenant situation, you need strong virtualization segregation between client information. You need to make sure that any sort of input, the more things that people can do to manipulate data in your web application. So if you have forms, if you do not have proper input validation, you could be susceptible to things like SQL injection and cross-site scripting. You should have a web application firewall sitting in front of your web applications. That will take care of a lot of the web-based attacks. There are a few other things to do. Definitely make sure that your data sets are encrypted at rest. The third thing I would say is make sure you have file integrity monitoring enabled on your servers so that you can watch when anything is done in certain directories on your servers, because you need to have visibility of the activity.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Chris, we have a live question from Kam, and who is with us today. Kam, we unmuted you and looking forward to your question. Let me see if I think I have unmuted.
Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh. Hi, this is fabulous. I just had a question regarding being a victim where they've, and we've had this happen, where they've scooped information off your system and then they're asking for money. In our case, it was photos. We didn't pay, but I've been told that if you do pay, they'll release the photos. So I'm just not sure. Do you pay them? Do you encourage this kind of thing?
Thank you very much.
I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer on that one. My opinion is to not pay them. I wouldn't trust anybody that has gone and stolen your information to honor that commitment. As I say, I just don't do it. I don't know how you would ever trust that. What you're doing is by paying them, you're actually training them that you are willing to pay. And personally speaking, if I were a hacker, okay, and I got in and I stole some photos from you, I would leave a few little abilities to get back into your environment again after you paid me, and I would go do it again.
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't make you very optimistic here, Chris, but I
sometimes feel this is a very depressing world, right?
No, I appreciate your clarity actually in it. I'm conscious of the time because we have 6 minutes left and there's a couple more questions that have come in. So this one is from Karen Brown, who travels and is staying in hotels. That's one of the things that she needs to do for work. And the question is, what is your suggestion on how best to keep my work or her work safe using hotel Wi-Fi?
Okay, definitely use a VPN service. The other thing just on hotels, never, ever, ever use the business center computers in a hotel, ever. That's not even shouldn't even be considered, even in an emergency. And if you do, you better wipe every single password that you used to log into your services from that situation. But yes, I would definitely there's a couple ways to do it when you work. Either travel with an LTE hotspot, okay, so that you are actually going Wi-Fi from your laptop to the hotspot and then using the cellular network to go out from there. That avoids the hotel Wi-Fi entirely. The other thing you could do is just use a VPN service, like there's a whole bunch of them. Nord VPN is one of them. And then effectively that encrypts all the information right from your computer, through to its destination.
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a question from Adam. Is it possible that an organization could have been breached or compromised without knowing it? And what are the signs that such a breach has occurred? It's a great question.
100%. In a lot of cases, the organizations have been breached for months, if not years, prior to being detected. 80% of the time, they actually organizations get notified by a third party that the hack has actually happened, because maybe they find some information on a dark website or a paste bin type thing. This is extremely common. In many cases, there are infections inside your organization that you do not know about and you wouldn't see. And as I mentioned earlier, there are all kinds of variants of malware that are just of the reconnaissance form. They sit and they listen and they watch and they learn. And they learn how you speak, who you speak to, and they learn your organizational structure, and they will sit there for as long as they possibly can.
No, I appreciate that. I think this might be the last question we can get to, but I'll maybe not. Are Internet of Things appliances and devices like a Wi-Fi enabled door locks, security cameras, thermostats safe? Do you have any suggestions for best practices in purchasing, deploying, and using such devices?
Yeah, do your research on those. Take a look at a company called Shodan. Shodan has a lot of IoT devices that are publicly exposed, and you can see that they're constantly being exploited. IoT devices rarely have security built into them right from the start, and they are not very secure in general as a category. So yeah, just do your research. You do really have to ask a lot of questions.
And this is the last question from David. Does your company, CyberHunters, conduct audits and test businesses against these security controls?
Yes, we do. We do all of that. Yeah.
Perfect. On that note, we have about a minute or two left here. Actually, we have one more question on liability. This is coming from Holly Mandula. What the liability is for businesses that collect credit card information for payments online? What are their responsibilities? That's a really important.
Okay, so depending on whether you are a merchant or you are a service provider, you are going to be subject to PCI DSS. So that's the payment card industry DSS regulations. That depending on how many transactions you do, whether you are in the merchant category or the service provider category, you're going to have to do everything from a self-assessment questionnaire right to a report on compliance with the acquirers and the card holder, the card companies like Visa and MasterCard. So the liability, they'll revoke your ability to take credit card information as a starter. They will not allow you to process that if you were in violation. So there are responsibilities for people that deal with payment card information on how they handle data and how they do that. But regulatory is not my world, but we have people at CyberHunter that specialize in PCI DSS. And so please give us a call. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Perfect. And Chris,
it's 1 o'clock.
Any closing comments you would like to make?
Try not to get too depressed about it. There are ways to solve these things. One of them is really to try and make yourself the hardest target on the block. You don't have to be perfect, but if you're just a little bit better than most, most of the hacking attempts will move on to something else. But please feel free to give us a call anytime. I'm always happy to try and help organizations improve their security posture. We have solutions to all of it, I promise you.
That's good to know, actually. So, Chris, thank you so very much for being with us this morning. It's greatly appreciated. It's such an important topic. And our appreciation also goes to MNP, Accounting, Tax, and Business Consulting Firm, for sponsoring this webinar, and above all to Meridian Credit Union for partnering with us throughout Small Business Month. Richard had mentioned it up front, but our last webinar is in this small business series will be next Wednesday on October the 28th from 10 to 11:30 on a very important topic. It's tapping into your grants, subsidies, and resources that are available to you. This is critical to all businesses, and in light of the ever-growing changes to these programs, I really invite you to join us next Wednesday, October the 28th at 10 o'clock. For all details, check out gncc.ca. Today's webinar was recorded and will be available on our website. We'll also distribute it to all participants as well as through all of our social media channels that we have. Lastly, to all of you for giving us this past hour, thank you for joining us, and please stay in touch.
Thanks, Mishka.
Thank you.